Hello, everyone. I am Joe Galatly. Today, I'm joined by my friend, Johnny Warren. We are going to talk about the startup that Johnny is running, Yayday, based right here in Spokane. Johnny, what you drinking tonight?
Oh, hey, man, I've got a little tequila in a wine glass. I hear everyone's drinking it that way now. You see that? Reposado Corralejo. Delicious. First time I had that, I was climbing a volcano in Mexico. So it's got kind of a special memory for me instead of negative memory. It's like a lot of tequila has.
Well, I'm excited to jump into this conversation, Johnny. We're going to ask you a bit about your volunteer work with the Spokane County Search and Rescue as well, and maybe reflect on some past startups. So let's get started.
Yeah, I'm on my way. I'm needing some big change. Like, how are things still the same? They finding me entertaining. Could never be imitated. Can't wait to say that I made it.
Welcome to Hustle On, the podcast about startups in Spokane and across the inland Northwest.
So Johnny, welcome to the pod. I'm going to jump into Yayday in a moment, but before we get into that, just a bit of background. You and I go way back. We've been a part of some big companies. We've been a part of some small companies, and we had some good jobs and some bad jobs. But we've also been a part of a startup. I was reflecting on as we we're getting connected here. So Zoom Lead, that was you and I, and it was Kendall Wood, and Kendall was really the engineering brain behind that. So Zoom Lead, just quickly for those listening, was a tool. You can perhaps say this better than I, but it was a tool that enabled rapid response to leads, right? So if, say, a realtor got a lead in from a Zillow or a realtor.com site, it would immediately contact the person submitting the lead, the potential prospect, right? Because that rate of response was so vital to the close rate. And so slick little tool. As you think back on that startup, man, from quite a few years ago, do you think it would be any different if we did it today?
Yeah, we had interesting challenges with that. I think one of the sayings in being an entrepreneur and coming up with ideas is too soon, too soon, too soon, too soon, too late. Like there's this instant switch between being right on time and not, or always being early. In a way, Zoom Lead felt a little bit too early. But another part of it was just that people didn't get our message. And, we were all working full-time jobs, and then trying to kind of do that on the side after hours, meeting at bars downtown, trying to compose what had to be done. But yeah, people missed the message. And I think had we gone after funding and had some money to bring in a real copywriter, a good marketing person, while we're fantastic at those things, obviously, I think we could have done better. Because despite everything we said about the fact that we didn't sell leads, in the very first sentence of our website said we don't sell leads, we do something far better. People didn't get it, so they came to us for the wrong reason. We got a ton of traction though. I mean, so many people hitting the website and requesting more information, but for the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think the follow-up when you're just starting out and you're working evening hours, that's always going to be a challenge, right? If you've got the day job chewing up most of your business hours to respond to all that interest. But the thesis definitely holds, right? As we think back on that, the idea that your win rate increases so much on leads when you respond quickly, it at least would have been a pretty sweet add-on tool, and still would be interesting to see how that plays in the market. Yeah. So an area I want to jump in with you is on your volunteer work with Spokane County Search and Rescue. Yeah. So this is going to be exciting to hear you describe a bit what this looks like. Can you explain what the role is, and also what inspired you to volunteer with the organization?
Yeah, so my role is, like you said, volunteer 100%. Went through 4 months of training every Friday night for a number of months, 4 months, like I just said. But it went from everything from how to navigate to first aid to the legal aspects of volunteer work, working under the state and for the sheriff's department. But I'm on call 24/7. If I get a text message right now on my phone, it could say, hey, we've got a lost subject on the backside of a local mountain. Report to these coordinates by 700 tomorrow morning or tonight, or what have you. And if
you'd wrap up the podcast and then you'd be
it'd be adios,
right? Yeah.
I technically probably couldn't right now because I'm about halfway into my tequila, so I'd be out. But yeah, no, it's fantastic work. It's got a great team. And it really, it's one of those things that just kind of feeds me as a person, right? We all have things that drive us, and helping people in need, people lost in the mountains and stuff. I'm a big mountaineer and hiker. So it was a good fit for me.
So what inspired you to join? Was it just that you already knew you have a talent for navigating rough terrain and being out in the wilderness? Was it any stories you heard or somebody that's participating in that? What really hit that spark first for you?
I didn't really know anything about it or even think about it until one night as I was leading a group of snowshoers around the backside of Mount Spokane in the dark, because I lead a lot of night group stuff. We heard somebody yelling for help. And from a few hundred feet up on the mountain, we saw someone kind of stumbling out, no headlight, but we could see this figure coming towards us, just really desperate for human contact. Turned out to be a young girl, early 20s, had been lost for hours, not appropriately dressed for a nighttime stay at all. So anyway, we took her with us to our destination, which she was pretty close to. Got her warmed up and fed. And then about an hour and a half later, we were heading out and she hadn't fully recovered. We thought she was good. I didn't have any of my training at the time. So anyway, she started vomiting and just couldn't move anymore. So I phoned and we got the ski hill to send us down a piston bully or a packer. And they took her out that route. So that was really what started for me, though. I was like, I realized, yeah, there's this collision of my desire and skill to be in the mountains and to help people. So it was a good fit.
As you've been able to participate in this, any lessons, any takeaways from this kind of crazy heroic work that you've done that translate into the business world that you've seen that would apply to how we navigate what we're doing on these startups?
I think there's a few ways you can go with that. For me, I think the people that really do well in search and rescue and the people that are really involved all have kind of a servant's heart. You lead by example. And I think in startups like ours, we have to lead by example all the time, right? If we're not willing to put in the work and the effort and the extra hours, then our team won't be either. So the fact that you're willing to give more than somebody else, I think is a big one. Put in the training, and to just consistency is a big part of it too, right? We train fairly often, even when there's no calls for months at a time, we're still training. So yeah, I could go there with it. I think that'd be a good place to correlate.
Okay, so outside of that, you mentioned, you already have had these endeavors like the volcano you referenced earlier. What extreme adventure are you most proud of that you've been able to do so far in your life?
Yeah, probably that one. So that mountain was called Pico de Orizaba. It's in the state of Orizaba in Mexico, 18,500 feet, roughly, just barely shy. That was a mountain that really, really pushed me physically. I was really sick with tonsillitis and uveitis on that climb. And I realized a lot about goals on that particular mountain. Down lower on the mountain, at like the 14,000 foot level, you would just walk until you retired and you would take a break, right? But as you get higher up the mountain and the air thinned out, goals had to be set and they had to be changed constantly to allow for success. And what I mean by that was there was a point where I remember counting 100 steps and then taking a break and kind of get my energy back. And then that turned into 50 steps. And then it turned into 25 and 10. And there was this inversion at this one point where it went from multiple steps to each breath to multiple breaths for each step. So I would literally stop and take 10 breaths and then take a step as I neared the summit. So the lesson there was so powerful. Constantly reassess your goals so that you can have success in reaching them, right? As long as you're making steps in the right direction, I think it's very positive to have success. Instead of, obviously the summit was the goal, but had that just been the goal, I would have felt like I'm failing the entire time because I'm so tired. This is so hard. But to reassess and establish midterm goals, I think is very powerful in what we do every day. So
absolutely makes sense. So much of what we do is the marathon, right? And it's all these small pieces to get us there. And so that makes sense from a leadership standpoint, motivation standpoint as well. I actually went up to Mount Spokane and went to Bear Creek Lodge, did some inner tubing with a bunch of fourth, fifth graders. So I can relate as far as being, just out there in the wild.
It's a real struggle. That's a long hill to walk back up with the tube.
They did pull us up.
Oh.
So there's that. There's that. But, so I'm something of an outdoor adventurer myself.
I'm glad you're here.
So
tell us about that.
I appreciate the stories, and I'm impressed and inspired as you've taken on the different adventures over the years. Now, Yayday. So talk us through what that is, where you are today, and then we'll get into some more details.
Yeah, where to start? Yayday is all about birthdays. Joe, if I were to ask you who owns the coffee industry on the West Coast, who would you say?
Starbucks.
Yeah. What about I don't know, rental cars?
Enterprise.
Yeah. So quick answer. Right? Yeah, we know who owns those, but when you talk about the birthday industry, who owns the birthday industry? Nobody, right? I mean, you might have some ideas like bouncy houses or something like that, but right, no name brand comes to mind. It's a gigantic industry, billions and billions of dollars that nobody owns. So Yayday came together with the concept of let's show everybody all the free stuff you can do for your birthday, which there's a lot of free stuff and some really big value things out there. That was the initial idea. And from there, we've gone all the way to the social aspect of an app where you can add family and friends, and then you can create wish lists. So we're building out a very robust beginning of a birthday platform that we hope to really just change the way the world birthdays, help people birthday better. That's our hashtag, birthday better.
It's exciting to hear kind of the big picture, the big vision. Let's just jump right into some hard stuff. What's been the biggest challenge with the journey so far to get to where you are today?
Yeah, proper talent to get this thing put together. I hate to admit this, but it's really good to be transparent with people trying to do startups because it's hard, right? To take something from concept, just from an idea in your head, to make it a tangible, usable service or product. Those two endpoints are light years from each other. And so to get through that is really extreme. So for us, again, it's been just getting the app put together. We started out with a company in town who gave it their best shot, and we were about 85% of the way there, and they couldn't complete that last 15%. They couldn't bring it together. So we hired an in-house full stack developer. Things were going really well there, and he kind of hit just the end of, I think he kind of hit like a mental point where he was like, I'm not going to get there. And here we are again at like 85% completion. So we bring in another full stack developer, absolute genius. Depending on who you ask, he's probably one of the best, at least on the West Coast. Boy, genius. He was writing operating systems in his teenage years. So anyway, but it's, for us, it's been that last 20% to wrap things up and bring them together. And right now we are at 95%. We're so close. We've got a great usable beta, but we're completing it out. We're making some big changes on the back end right now. But it's been the people with the fortitude to see things through when things get hard. A lot of people want to quit. They take the route of less resistance, let's say.
Since you've brought up talent in the Spokane environment, has that been, do you feel like that's restricted in any way, your ability to get someone in who can take you 100% of the way, or has it that not really been a complicating factor in the journey?
All of our talent has come through networking, and you and I discussed recently the lack of networking just since COVID hit, right? There's been this huge gap of people getting together and just business networking. So I could see that being an issue, but yeah. As
you tie this back to being a startup in Spokane, I think we're with this podcast want to focus in on anything that's unique to the geographic area. And I just wondered if you've seen some of that, if there's a talent pipeline challenge, or because you've just needed one at a time, it really hasn't been a struggle for you.
Sure. Yeah. So for us, it hasn't been a struggle to find new talent at this point. Right now, I'm hiring for, I almost said HR again, for marketing. And I'd say of the people I'm really interested that have applied, about half of them are in Spokane. So there's some talent here. Maybe not the person who's been there, done that, made a huge exit, that ran the marketing for a Yelp or something like that. But we do have some great marketing people in the area. There's a lot of people moving to Spokane too, right? But I think one of the things COVID brought about was the fact that you don't have to be local. We can all work from home. So even the fact that we're all local right now, for the most part, we're all remote.
Well, as you and I have discussed, part of the dream here, what you're working on, what I'm working on, and others in town, will produce some of that talent that stays, right? If we can have some of those successful full cycle startups through exits and retain some of the capital and the talent here in town, it's just going to do so much to drive everything else forward. So hopefully we are actively working on that in our respective projects right now.
Right.
So you mentioned you can work from anywhere. What do you see as the near future for working from home? Is that just the path forward for you and the team over there, or are you considering any other approaches?
It's interesting. I love working from home. I love that I'm not driving an hour a day. I love that I'm not spending $20 every day for lunch and snacks downtown. I think there's fantastic benefits. I have more time here with the family, all that good stuff. But as we hire a new person to join the company that knows nothing about us, that doesn't understand the culture we had in the office, that pendulum swings back a little bit, right? Because it's a challenge to bring somebody in under the fold of the company and help them really understand who we are. At least mentally, in my mind, that's a tough challenge. So I think we're going to ultimately end up is we'll keep an office. I'd like to be in there a day or two per week, or when something big's coming up and we've got to huddle around a whiteboard together and put markers on it instead of trying to use a virtual whiteboard. I don't see us being 100% remote really ever. But how about you guys?
So we are all back in the office, and it's along the lines of what you were sharing. I think for us, building the culture is much easier to bring everybody together, the energy we need right now as we push forward. But the other aspect is we've brought in, the first person, our one person marketing department, our one person, and now a couple of people in the sales department. We don't have benchmarks yet, right? We don't have a really clear measuring stick. So if someone is out of site working remotely, in some aspects as a startup, it's tougher to measure whether something is working or not working right because of steps that they're taking. We just don't have a clear blueprint. So we want to learn from each other still. And it's also easier to measure our results when we're really clear on what everybody's working on all day. Right. So for now, we're all together. Fortunately, though, we can facilitate that remote work because we did that for a while. And now as people get those that are not really sick, little minor colds, and stay home and want to keep working, it's no problem, right? Or just a day, just some space to focus. I still think out of this pandemic, we have really learned to incorporate and use that remote work, and it's at least a time to time benefit for everybody here.
Yeah. Plus, the Zoom meetings. I'm joining from outer space right now. You're Lake Moraine in Canada. It looks like can't beat that.
That's exactly where I am. Yeah, you've been holding your breath for a long time. I'm impressed. So you are talking about the pandemic and networking. You mentioned. You and I had a group called the Spokane Entrepreneurs Group. We have a group called the Spokane Entrepreneurs Group. Let's visit that for a moment. Do you want to recap kind of what we did in the past, and then let's look forward together at that group?
Yeah, boy, how far back to go? I often think about that first day you said, "Hey, I have an idea." I've been thinking about it for a couple of years. At least as I recall, that's how it went. And then I said, "Yeah, we should do something with that." And then I think it was within a few hours we had a meeting set, right, and we had people invited.
That's exactly what happened. I said, man, I sometimes I just need somebody around me who's like, well, let's take a step, let's go, and it was a great catalyst for what followed. Go on.
Yeah. So we started the Spokane Entrepreneur Group. Entrepreneur is a hard word, folks. It's not just a hard lifestyle; it's a hard word. So SEG. We started SEG. And we were meeting weekly back then at the Davenport Tower. We were just hanging out by the fireplace there. 2 to 8 of us, I think, on average back then. And we had people come in from the community that were well-known entrepreneurs or VC folks. And we just bounced ideas off each other. I'm trying to do this and I need help here, right? We're struggling in this area. How should we approach that? Who has experience? And it kind of grew from there. We started the LinkedIn Spokane entrepreneur group out of that. And I think it sits at about 1,800 people right now. Would love to see us get more involved with those folks. But yeah, I mean, we've had some fantastic people involved with that, and businesses have started from that too.
Yeah, it was extremely helpful to me as well. And we did, like you said, see some great businesses kickstart right there and grow into successes.
Yeah.
We're reaching that point, hopefully, where we can talk about some in-person events and maybe going a little bigger and creating that space for everyone to connect. And I think we're both big believers in the serendipity of being in person and the things that come out of those simple conversations. And I think that's certainly been something missing for us that I'm so excited for Spokane to have back.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back downtown in those groups. And just I had a funny thing happen to me the other day, just being around people. I went to Winco to do grocery shopping, which I haven't done much grocery shopping. I've gone to Instacart and done almost everything that way, just from a time savings point of view. But I went to Winco because Instacart doesn't do them. And like halfway through my shopping trip, I realized, man, I'm like grinning ear to ear right now. And I just realized it's because I'm around people. There was like so much gratitude just to hold a freezer door open for someone to get their ice cream out. So it's silly, but man, I miss the groups. I miss the crowds, the energy, the inspiration, right? Like there's a lot to being person to person.
Let's bring it back sometime in the next couple months. We'll make something happen. Okay.
Yep.
Let's do that together. Hey, I'm looking forward to teaming up with you on some future pods and bringing some other guests on here. I appreciate all you've shared today. Just a quick bonus question here. And I didn't prep you for this, but even in the environment that we're in, have you been able to go out to any restaurants? What's your favorite Spokane restaurant that is currently in business? Or at least one of your favorites?
One of my favorites. I'll give you two. For like just a standard Mexican restaurant in town, I actually really love Rincon Tapatio over on Market Street. They've been there for a while. Miguel runs it. Fantastic food, great help, good prices. I like that place. But if I'm going to go high end, for me, it's been Churchill's for a long time. I can't pass on that place.
Yeah, you can buy me a steak there anytime.
All right, man.
Yeah, great. Appreciate the recommendations.
Yeah.
And we'll be back. And again, thanks for your time, Johnny. And to everyone listening, take care and hustle on. I'm trying that for my close. What do you think?
It's good, man.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Johnny.